Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. I'm your host, Jill Mokes, and I am, as always, thrilled to have you with me again this week. Thank you. Of course, if you're new around here, welcome. I'm so glad you found me because I am going to be bringing you great stuff around building your coaching practice. That's what I do week after week. It's what we talk about on this podcast. It's mostly stuff I've found out the hard way that I now pass on to you so that you don't have to make all of the many mistakes that I made over the years. And so this podcast really is a little training ground for coaches to grow their businesses, grow their coaching practices. My style is very much real talk. You don't get an awful lot of fluff. You get a lot of honest truth around these parts about what it really takes to grow a coaching business. You know, I don't need to tell you there's so much noise out there about what you have to do and what you shouldn't do and what you must do. And the truth is there is no one magic recipe for growing any business. There's one non-negotiable rule, and that is you need to be radically, authentically you. If you can master that one, you can learn everything else. Learn everything else. Just make sure you're bringing the whole of you into your business. Okay. What am I talking about this week? So this week we are going to do a deep dive into the things that I would do differently if I was starting my coaching business today. All right, let's dive in. Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. I'm Jill Mokes and I am obsessed with cutting through the noise when it comes to growing your business. Each week via intimate coaching conversations and inspirational stories, I share what it really takes to get the results you want in a way that feels right to you. I am all about attracting higher ticket opportunities, building authentic relationships, and creating the abundant, full-fat version of your dream business. I mean, how many of us have beavered away creating a light version of what we really want? The thing is, I honestly believe when you're outstanding at what you do, there is no limit to what you can achieve. So, are you ready to put our heads together and make it happen? Let's go. Okay, I'm pulling back the curtain today and I'm going to be really honest about the things that I would do differently if I had the chance, if I was starting my coaching business all over again from today. Because let's face it, hindsight is brilliant. There's a song. There used to be this song in the 80s, Hindsight is 20/20 Vision. I can't remember what song it comes from. Anyone who's my age listening is going to be like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, hindsight is really fantastic. It's also quite a harsh teacher. I have learned a lot of things over the years. And don't get me wrong, I am so proud of the business I've built. I'm really proud of it. But I'm also proud of the lessons that I've learned along the way. And I definitely did not take the smoothest route to get here. There's a lot of stuff that I really did kind of attach. I kind of put a stake in the ground and became very immovable when it came to certain strategies and things. And so I would tend to kind of flog a strategy for longer than I should have done. Or I would go the other way and I would flit from one thing to another and not give things enough time to work. Yeah, lots of kind of zigs and zags on the route that I took to get to where I am now. If you're just getting started and growing your coaching business, or if you're a few years in and still finding your own rhythm, then I really want this episode to give you like a bit of a shortcut, which I didn't have. I never had that. So the first thing I want to talk about is how I definitely did not have it all figured out when I started. And that is understandable. None of us have it all figured out when we started. But there is one assumption I think that we all make as coaches that does not serve us. And that is that we start our coaching business thinking that our coaching skill on its own will be enough. And I think I was very much attached to that concept. I really believe that being outstandingly good at what I do would automatically lead to a steady stream of clients. This is something that I think is a little bit of a message that a lot of coach training programs will give people. I was lucky. I didn't do my coach training until much further down the line. So when I first started, I just knew I was naturally good at coaching and very good at consulting. So I was very good at giving people advice to do this thing next. And then I honed my coaching skills over time. But I think there are a lot of people, particularly with the influx that we've had of new coaches into the arena, who are being led to believe that just do this fabulous, shiny coaching training, and that's all you'll need. The clients will miraculously appear. They don't, right? They definitely don't. There is a lot that goes into growing a coaching business that it has nothing to do with how good or not you are at coaching, rightly or wrongly. And this myth is really one of the reasons that I started the collective, which is my membership for coaches who are growing their businesses, because I honestly believe that the coaches who are committed to being great at what they do, they deserve the information that they need to be able to put their coaching into the world, to be able to get in front of the clients who need them. And that is missing from a lot of coach training facilities. So I think that the first thing I would do differently if I was starting my business today is that I would definitely start with this truth around what it's going to take for me to build my business. I wouldn't want those kind of rose tinted glasses that if I just get good enough at coaching, it's going to all work out. Right. So I think that's probably a really important thing to say before we start. So there's kind of 7 things I've outlined in my notes here. I don't script these episodes, but for some episodes when I want to make sure that I'm going to capture all of the different points that I want to make, I do set myself a few notes, and I've done that for this episode. And there's 7 things that I think I would do differently now. And the first one is I would begin with the end in mind. Thank you, Stephen Covey. I talk about this all of the time. I would get very clear on what I wanted from my business from the outset, because I definitely wasn't. I did not have a clear vision of what I wanted from my coaching business. I got very caught up in what I was being told that I should want, and I got very caught up in trying to copy what other people were doing. But I don't think I spent an awful lot of time really understanding what I wanted this business to look like in terms of what was the lifestyle I wanted it to give me. What was the income I wanted? I didn't at the beginning write down a number and say, right, that is how much money I'm going to generate from my coaching. Let me work back from that so that I can understand how many clients I need to serve. What do I need to charge them? Right? I didn't do it that way. I did it the other way. If a client came along, it was almost like a surprise and a bonus. I didn't start with the end in mind. And that is the first thing I would have done differently. There's a quote, actually, and I don't know who said this, but there's a quote that says, when you don't choose your direction, you default to someone else's. Isn't that so true? So I think that, number one, so important. Get very clear on what you want from your business. Write it down. Don't use fluffy terminology. Like, this is not a writing exercise. This isn't a Substack essay. Be really clear. In the collective, in the membership, we have workbooks around this where you really get clear on what you want from your business. The second thing I would do, I would have niched down sooner. I know this is a tricky one. Even I still wrestle with the concept of niching because there is a part of me that still wants to fight against this and say, you know what? Maybe we don't have to niche. Maybe we want the variety of coaching, lots of different people with lots of different issues. Okay. And I don't disagree with that. Part of me believes that too. But honestly, when it comes to starting and growing your business, we don't have that luxury of sitting back and saying, I'm the coach for everyone, because no one will hear that message. Choosing a niche doesn't have to put you in a box. It can give you a box to stand on top of. I hope that analogy lands. I quite like that analogy. It really is the thing that will get you noticed, particularly in the beginning. Now, here's the interesting thing. Niching doesn't have to be about picking a industry that you coach in. It doesn't have to be about picking a particular type of coaching, right? It doesn't have to be the traditional niches that we talk about. Niching down can be about putting a stake in the ground and saying, you know what? These are my values. And my niche is that I coach people whose values are in alignment with those, right? Think and experiment about different ways you can niche down. So it doesn't have to look like the way everyone else niches. If you are really feeling a strong pull to being a generalist instead of a specialist, I am never going to be the one that tells you you're wrong to do that. But I am going to tell you that you're going to make marketing your business hard. And if I were you, if I was starting my business now, I would be niching down. I would be doing it straight away. I would want to become known for my thing, my niche, the kind of people I coach, the way I coach them, the topic I coach around. One of those things doesn't have to be all of those things. You don't need to niche every aspect of your business. But I would absolutely be getting clear on what I wanted to be known for. So that's the second thing I would have done sooner. The third thing is that I would have worked on building my personal brand. And this is something that I didn't do until a lot later. And it's now something that I teach, whether that's in one-to-one coaching or inside of the collective. I teach you how to really build your personal brand with purpose, not by accident, not by trying to sound like every other coach out there, right? This is about owning your own brand story. It's about owning all the quirky things about you that make you you. It's about understanding what your voice is and building your brand around that, because people aren't buying your coaching business. They're investing in you. As coaches, we are, whether we want to be or not, personal brands. That's a really important thing to remember. So that is the third thing I definitely would have focused on sooner. Working on my personal brand. I would have absolutely spent time figuring out what it was about me that was different, what it was about me that was special because of every single piece of lived and learned experience that I'd clocked up over the years, not just in coaching, but, you know, in my corporate world, in who I am as a woman, as a person. I would really have gone much deeper into that work at the beginning of my coaching practice, because I know that that would have accelerated the growth of my business for sure. The fourth thing that I would do differently if I was starting my business today is something that took me a long time to learn. And that is that I would put way more focus on relationships than on social media or search engine optimization or any other kind of marketing strategy. I would have doubled down on relationships right from the start. And that is something that I learned the hard way. I learned eventually that no amount of content marketing, however dialed in your messaging is, and don't get me wrong, it's important. It's really important when it comes to growing your business to create thought leadership content that positions you as this recognized authority in your niche. But in terms of growing your business, relationships are everything for coaches. Again, people are investing in you. They're investing in how you make them feel. And that is about conversations. It's about not obsessing over content and likes and hashtags and all of that kind of stuff. It's about real conversations. It's about, how can I deepen the relationship with people who come into my world, whether that is through networking, whether it is through social media, whether it's through events. Our businesses as coaches, they're built on trust, and trust is built one conversation at a time. This is why there's been this move towards audio and video content, right? I've talked about this recently with the rise of AI, ChatGPT, all of that kind of thing. We're in a little bit of a trust desert. We don't really know what to trust and what not to trust when it comes to the written word. Whereas with me talking to you now, I'm between your ears. You can hear the inflection in my voice. You know, this is me. This is coming from me. These are my thoughts. And you will feel like we know each other. I get this all the time when people do come into my world. They definitely feel like they already know me quite well because they've been listening to the podcast for a while. I bloody love that. I absolutely love that. That's how I start building relationships with people before I even have a conversation with them, before they book a call with me or join the collective, join the membership. I'm already building a relationship by putting out this content every single week, sharing a bit more of myself to focus on building the relationship. So that's something that I would have done much sooner. Again, I would have done it sooner. This podcast, it's, we're 2.5 years into the podcast now, and it's been a slow burn. This was not a podcast that when I, started releasing episodes was generating, thousands of downloads. Absolutely not. It's been a slow burn. So don't wait. Don't wait around. Focus on relationships. How can you deepen relationships with the people that come into your world? Doesn't have to be a podcast, doesn't have to be a YouTube channel. It could just be networking, attending events, sending people voice notes, messages, collaborations. That's what I would have focused on sooner. Okay, what is the fifth thing that I would absolutely do differently now? I would have completely ignored everything that I was told in the beginning about sales. I did a horrendous program at the beginning of my coaching business. I wouldn't call it out anyway, because for some people, they might have got a ton of value out of it. But for me, this course I did, this program around selling was just horrendous. And still now, to this day, I'm still unpacking some of the things that I was taught. I'm using air quotes, the usual pointless podcast air quotes for that, taught in this program. Things like all the sleaziness around making sure it's the decision maker. And, is this someone who needs to get the approval of their spouse before making a decision to invest? And if so, are you going to get them on the call as well? It's like, it actually makes me feel sick now when I think about some of those horrendous techniques. Oh, and the worst one, pressurizing people into making a decision. So doing all of that thing, like if you sign today, you'll get it at this price, but if you wait till tomorrow, it's going to go up. And, all of that shit. I just cannot stand it. But obviously when you begin, you don't know what you don't know. I didn't realize at the beginning what I now know to be true, which is that as coaches, we never need to sell. I didn't realize that as coaches, specifically as coaches. So anyone listening to this, if you're thinking, but Jill, everyone has to sell. If you're in business, you've got to sell. I really want you to hear this, because I've grown a very thriving coaching practice by knowing this to be true. As coaches, we do not need to sell ourselves. We just need to give the person we're speaking to a taste of how it feels to be coached by us. If you want to use the S word, that is selling as far as coaches are concerned, right? That is the extent of selling. And, sales as service is a cliche, but it's really true. If what you do genuinely helps people, then selling is serving. So I would have got way more comfortable with inviting people to work with me by giving them generously of my time an experience of how it feels to be coached by me. I would have done that much more. And I would have stopped listening to all of the people who say, don't give away your coaching for free. Don't coach on a sales call. I mean, for God's sake, don't call them sales calls for a start. Yeah, I would have really made peace with that much sooner. And that's what I would do differently now. I would really embrace the fact that sales is service. So you can forget the selling and just be of service. Be generous with your time. Give people that taste. Okay. Another thing I would do differently if I were starting my business today is that I would create one great coaching offer. I think that I kind of consumed a lot of stuff in the early days around digital courses. So when I started my business, digital courses were all the rage. And honestly, I was kind of seduced by that passive income promise of a digital course that would be passive. I wouldn't have to do anything and the money would roll in while I'm sleeping. And actually, I think I neglected going all in by having a few half-assed attempts at creating courses and programs and things like that, none of which ever saw the light of day. They were literally just a soul-sucking waste of time. And I realized after a while what I now again know to be true, which is that building a really thriving one-to-one coaching practice, it's what delivers you to the gateway of diversifying into more offers. But getting really clear on creating one great coaching offer, an amazing signature framework that takes a client one-to-one with you through a process of evolving, of transformation. That is how you grow your coaching business at the beginning. And if I were going back, I would just have been blinkered on that. If I were literally starting again today, I would go so all in on one great offer. Yeah. So one thing that I've realized is that once you get to capacity, which can ebb and flow, of course, sometimes you're going to be fully booked with private clients and sometimes not. But once you are at that period in your business where you are having regular periods of being at capacity for one-to-one clients, that's your signal. That's your sign that you're ready to create a leveraged offer, whether that is a group program or it's retreats or it's workshops or it's digital courses, whatever it is. And if I was starting over, I would take that approach. Again, I'm never super directive with anything. I'm just telling you what I would do. There are some coaches out there who love group coaching so much that really is their priority. And if that's that one great offer that you're going to create from the outset, go all in on that. Do that really, really well, right? Honor your own path through growing your coaching business. Trust yourself to make smart decisions around things like this. The final thing that I would do differently if I was starting over my business is that before I made any offers of coaching or before I decided on the prices for my coaching, I would have absolutely done more work on my money mindset at the beginning. This is something I now teach, but at the beginning of my business, I undercharged, I overworked. I didn't believe that I could make real money as a coach. I definitely didn't believe that I could build a 6-figure plus business as a coach. I had an assumption that if I wanted a business doing what I love, I would not be able to earn a lot of money doing that. I just made them mutually exclusive. And it was only really when I did a lot of work, internal work on my money mindset, on a lot of the limiting beliefs that I had around my worth and around charging for what I do. Only then was I able to confidently charge what I wanted to charge for my coaching, what I believed in around the value of my coaching. And that is about really pricing your coaching for sustainability, right? It's not about having some sort of internal fight around what an hour's coaching with you could possibly be worth. And I know some of you are still having that internal fight with yourselves. But this is really about being confident to charge what you want to charge and what you feel is in line with the value that your coaching delivers to your clients. There are no pricing police. There are no one is going to enable you or stop you from charging what you believe is the right price for your coaching. And trust me, you need to be comfortable with what you're charging. If you don't do the money mindset work and are therefore uncomfortable with the price that you have set for your coaching because you don't value your work highly enough, you believe it's too expensive, maybe you don't invest in yourself at that level, then you are going to really struggle to attract clients who are willing to invest at that level. So that's the last thing that I would do differently. I would have worked on my money mindset very much at the day one of starting my business, for sure. There's a few things I wouldn't change. So it's probably worth actually me going over that because it sounds like, I've got all these regrets about my business and that just isn't true. I love the business I've built. I absolutely adore it. I adore the clients that I've worked with over the years. I adore the clients that I work with now. I love the collective, my membership for coaches, which is building beautifully. It's just a gorgeous space and I love it and I wouldn't change that for the world. Things I wouldn't change. I would not change the decision I made to go all in on coaching. Oh my goodness. Imagine if I hadn't made that brave decision back in the early days when I'd started my first business as a VA, but it wasn't a good fit for me. And I knew that wasn't what I was destined to do. And I made the really brave decision to go all in on coaching. And I wouldn't change that for the world. It was the best thing I did was to not give myself a plan B, to just go for it. So I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't change all of the relationships I've built over the years. When I think about some of the early clients I coached when I was really undercharging for what I did, but you know what? I'm still in touch with a lot of the people I coached back in those early days. I'm so fortunate with the relationships that I've nurtured over the years, and I definitely would not change that. Would I change all of the times when I've been in tears thinking, oh my God, this is so hard. It would be so much easier to go and get a job. It would be so much easier. No, I wouldn't change those days. I wouldn't, because I feel like those are the days where you actually understand and realize that you have to do this. You have to do this because as soon as that thought comes up of like, shit, can I really do this? Can I make this work? Can I make the ambition that I have for this business real? And those days when you start self-doubting and almost threatening yourself with doing something you really don't want to do because you're worried that you can't make what you do want to do happen, those days are the rude awakening. That's the awakening you need to realize you have to do it. You have to make it work. Those days make you actually the business owner that you need to be. Yeah, so I wouldn't change those days. And there are hard days. Building any business isn't easy. And the people who say to you, you know, oh, if it doesn't feel like it's beautifully in flow, you're doing it wrong. It's bullshit. Building any business is hard. But if that's true, I've said this lots of times, you know, if building any business is hard, why would you not build the business you really want? And you know what? There's no perfect path to growing a business. You are going to get things wrong. You are going to get down the line and then do your own version of the 7 things I'd do differently if I was starting my coaching business, right? You will have one of these podcast episodes inside you one day. So you're definitely going to do things wrong, but you get to choose again every single day. Every single day in business is a fresh start. You get to change your mind as often as you want. You get to pivot as many times as you like. Don't allow yourself to be bullied by the people that say, oh, you're damaging your brand if you change your mind or if you change things too often. No, if something's out of alignment, you need to figure that out. You need to figure that out and you need to make changes. And you get to do that fresh every single day until you get to a point, which is where I feel I am right now, of just feeling so much gratitude for the business I have, so much gratitude for the clients I have, so much gratitude for getting to do the thing I absolutely bloody love every single day. Hey, what is not to love about that, right? If you are a few years in, I would love for you to think about this. What would you do differently if you were starting over today? And what's stopping you from doing that right now? If there are things that you are thinking, oh God, yeah, if I was starting over, I would definitely do this differently. Change it today. Make the change. Okay, I hope this has been a helpful episode. I love listening to episodes like this from other people. I really like hearing the honest truth about things that people did wrong, but managed to kind of set right. So I hope this has been helpful. If you would like to find out what more support from me could look like, I would urge you to check out the collective. If you go to jillmokes.com/collective, come and join us inside that beautiful membership. All of the information is on that landing page, so do go and have a look at that. And go to jillmokes.com for lots more about ways to work with me in terms of private coaching, etc. I would love to support you on your journey to grow your coaching business. It's what I do. Paying forward what I've done and helping people avoid the mistakes I've made is what I do. All right. Have a fantastic week and I will catch you again, same time, same place next week. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that getting our heads together this week has filled your mind with what's possible. If you love the show, would you do me a massive favour, please? Would you leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts? It would really help me put more heads together, reach more ears and expand more minds. Until next week, bye for now.